So it's 11 a.m. It's the 5th of February. It's 2020. It's early into the year, and you'll have noticed it's very early into an entire new decade. I'd like to say a very warm welcome to all of in fact, the immense number of people who've signed up for this webinar. So to everybody that's on the webinar now, I'd like to say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world, because you literally are spread everywhere in the world. And to our audience here live on the 17th floor, it's fantastic to welcome you to this special day. The brilliant John McCarthy, who won the Turing Award, said these words: "There is nothing more powerful than an idea whose time has come." And he could have been referring to today. Today, the world launch of the first marketplace for digital employees. Go to the cloud, find your digital employee, look at their role, look at the skill, hire a digital employee. He might have also been saying, here is the dawn of the hybrid workforce commerce, a whole new world. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to bring to the stage now our presenter, our first presenter, our president, our CEO, Chetan Dube.
Thank you, Alistair. I think Alistair said it very well. This is the dawn of a new era, and we are humbled and privileged that we have over 1,000 people from all over the world that have joined us to witness this moment. But they're not just witnesses. They are the vanguards. World Economic Forum may talk about it, that 52% of the workforce is going to be digital by 2025. But these people who have taken the time this morning or afternoon or evening to join this webinar are the true vanguards that will usher in this era where employees are going to be hired from the cloud. The perceived hyperbole of the statement, if you're wondering about the perceived hyperbole of the statement, kindly pay attention to the veracity of the numbers and the magnitude of the impact that you are about to make. RPA market, 5 billion going to about 12 billion. AI software, 7 going to 24. Entire cloud market. Infrastructure from the cloud. EC2 and S3 from the cloud. AWS and Azure and Bluemix, and of course, all of the top tier providers. Entire cloud market, 272 billion. Is that the promise of the cloud, though? Thinking minds and the thought leaders that are assembled on this call must ask themselves if that is the ultimate promise of the cloud. Is it infrastructure cycles from the cloud? Or is it human cycles from the cloud? And if you are the vanguards that subscribe to the fact that in the end, human cycles from the cloud is the real proposition and promise of the cloud, then you are about to embark on a journey. The magnitude of it is 2,900 billion in 2021 alone. 10 times larger than the entire market side of the infrastructure services from the cloud. So let's say we see the mathematical truthfulness of that. And let's say we are, of course, we have taken the time. We are the avant-garde. We are going to usher in this new era. We are ready to go into this. What does it take now? But my digital employee, my experience with the digital employees has been subpar as compared to the proficiency of a human employee. My customer service, my NPS scores have been subpar as compared to that I get from a human employee. And why is that? Because bots today, and forgive my directness, are only half human. They either do the front office, conversational intelligence part, or they do the back office RPA bot part, the automation and autonomic agents that you might be running in the back. In words of our CIO from NTTD, Chris Fitzgerald, we're living in a world of IVR 2.0. They're still the decision tree based agents, except that they are not asking you to press a number. They're asking you to speak in natural language, but they do DNN map you onto a number. How can that compare? What does it take for you to get human levels of service? The basic model for how these services are rendered, the basic design of what it is, what does it take to do intelligent services has to shift from a decision tree based algorithm to a brain algorithm. How does your brain think? Completely orthogonal. You have to break away from IVR and you have to start thinking in an orthogonal tangent. How does your brain think? Your brain has got domain knowledge. Your brain allows you to be able to say, if you've hired a digital employee, you should say, call me, Skype me, Slack me, hey, FaceTime me. Your brain has a deep contextual understanding of what is being said right now. Your brain is able to context switch between the different and provide the flexibility. See, none of this is, by the way, a decision tree here. You're able to context switch between different, statefully context switch between different threads of execution. Multi-threaded execution, key part. Your semantic core, your episodic experiential memory is engaged right now. Your affective memory is engaged, your analytic memory is engaged, your semantic memory, all parts of your multi-threaded brain are acting in parallel to provide the richness of experience that is derived, that provides a good NPS score. Yeah? Learning. This is perhaps the most important and often the most abused word. Machine learning is often, and I think it is a very important tenet. You basically take a new utterance, you recrunch your models, and you reload the models, and that's what the entire aspect of machine learning is. Do you learn the same way? Do your employees learn the same way? Your employees learn the way humans learn is that they are inductive machines, and they couple it with deductive learning that they have learned from the colleges that they went to, the schools they went to. Inductive learning has to complement the deductive learning aspects and the machine learning aspects to be able to provide you a human level of experience. And of course, you have to have an emotional connection and you have to drive business outcomes. That's what you will see today. You will see a departure from an IVR decision tree based algorithms into brain algorithms of how human brains think, and that is the fundamental tenet of what is required for you to be able to deliver human level of services. If you do achieve this, then how will you onboard your digital employee? Today you guys knock out the 6 to 9 months of value creation time frame. We have some of the leaders, I know, Bill, you have suffered 6 to 9 months at times in getting your agents up to speed. Today, you knock that out. You have 10 minutes time to value. You hire, but what would you do after hiring? You have to authorize the person to be able to act on the assets that you want them to act on. No, you have to, if you want them to act on Active Directory, you have to be able to authorize them on Active Directory. If you want them to act on Workday, you want to authorize them on Workday. No. Once you've authorized them, then you onboard them, which means that you basically allow them to be able to learn. And this is the keys to the kingdom. You're not going to see IPsoft digital employee today. Please mark my words. You are going to see your digital employee. The onus is on you. IPsoft will bring a domain knowledge of 2 decades that will give you a warm population, but the most important keys to that success of that digital employee is going to lie in your hand, because as soon as this employee is onboarded, the learning comes automatically through you. It's your employee. And we will illustrate this point, how exactly the same way that humans are learning, the employee would be able to learn. And once you have done all this within 10 minutes, the learning part of, obviously, you'll continually learn, but you'll learn very rapidly. In a week's time, you would have fundamentally learned all of the different peculiarities and the bespoke processes that exist in your environment. Then you're ready to go. And that means that you introduce this person to the rest of your organization and customers. So what do we present to you today? We have 672 skills that we have learned in over 2 decades of doing this. 672 cognitive agents that we have learned in domains spanning from banking to insurance to healthcare to retail to TMT, telco. We have obviously some luminaries, Bart, you know our experience in this. We have spanned the entire gamut of these skills. You will see all of them. We will also show you a sampling of some of these skills made ready to hire. So we will show you 3 select samples. One, on one side, an HR coordinator, a generalist, horizontal sweep across your organization. Second, we will show you your IT service desk engineer. This is a knowledge worker, a generalist, a knowledge worker, and then we will also show you a specialist. Opioid crisis management specialist, a physician's assistant specialist. So you get a spectrum of what true cognitive technologies can deliver for you. And thereafter, you would be able to go ahead and browse and see in the digitalworkforce.ai which roles apply to you. And if you find something which is not here and you say, oh, I like this role for this banking, tell us, and we will make that role come alive for you. Let's start. Let's have you hire your first digital employee. Allow me to present to you our Vice President of Emerging Technologies, Ergun Ekici.
Nothing? There you go. The energy. Fantastic. Good morning, everyone. Hope you're enjoying your day as much as we are. We're going to dive right in, if you don't mind. We want to introduce you to that next generation of digital employee. A number of you here, a number of you in the webinar, have met Amelia. Already realize the cognitive capabilities, what they mean in terms of being able to handle your complex problems, deliver on your complex solutions. This now makes it accessible to a much broader base and with predefined skills that allow you to adopt and implement in your enterprise. So today we're going to talk about how you could hire your next HR coordinator. Now imagine if you were going to marketplace and you were going to hire an HR coordinator, you would expect the HR coordinator to come with certain skills, certain abilities. They've done this job before. They're not out of college just learning it for the first time. That HR coordinator may know how to manage expenses, how to take you through your expense report process, how to recruit a new employee. Day one, when you come here and you bring in your HR coordinator and you hire it, you will now have all the skills that are required for it. But your organizations are complex. Day one is just where you get started. What you want is to see how you learned in day 2, how she starts recognizing your organization in day 10. And by day 30, she is the best HR coordinator that you have, showing an amalgamation of the knowledge that's your organization. And this is what we're talking about with downloadable digital employees, not just a set of pre-existing APIs and gateways to Workday or PeopleSoft, not just preset skills, but a trained employee that has the ability to learn your enterprise. So with that, we want to dive right in, introduce you to your HR coordinator. and we're going to have a conversation with her very quickly. I assume the audio and all that are good to go.
And what is your email address?
And I will introduce myself. Fantastic. So we are now talking to our digital employee.
How
now,
can I help you today?
we have a rich human-like interface. You see the avatar. She is engaged. Is that, how can I help you today? I say today is not a good day. I'm having an day, right? Could be better.
Sure, I can help you with submitting an absence request.
What a good answer, right? It's like, you're not having a good day. Maybe you don't want to come to work today. Let me help you move on from there. What type of deal?
What type of absence would you like to apply for?
That's recognizing your intent, right? It's like, I'm not having a good day. You know what? You need to take a time off. Now let's continue from there very quickly. So I'm going to now, if you don't mind, start a new conversation. I'm going to go to mind, because while the front end is beautiful, I think you should see what's happening behind the scenes. What makes your digital employee different is the ability to understand what you meant by using that multi-part complex mind. And Chetan, if you'd like to, please. I think it'd be a very good compliment.
I think this is what I was alluding to earlier, where the fundamental design, and I think we take advantage of the fact that we have a knowledgeable audience today, that the fundamental design of the cognitive agent is orthogonal from the way typical decision tree-based chatbots are designed. You really have studied how humans think. You know that there's your hippocampus, the semantic core. You have to parse what it means when you say, get me a cup of coffee. It means take from this person, transfer this theme called coffee. This is the destination where the coffee needs to end up. You need to be able to have an assembly language almost constructed for what it means by natural language. Not just map, get me a coffee onto one of the buckets and play you a song, which is what all deep neural network algorithms do today. Because they won't understand, if it's cloudy outside, then get me a coffee. They will never understand that. Because you have to, if you subscribe to Professor Chris Manning, who's one of the leading brains in artificial intelligence from Stanford University, you will know that he says you have to marry the symbolic logic models with the connectionist models to be able to achieve human levels of comprehension. And that's the breakthrough that you are going to witness today. That's the semantic part. You see her front episodic part is engaged, which is the experiential memory. You see her ability to filter out noise and extract the logical triplets. You see her, the factual parts of her brain engaged. You see the orchestration part of her brain engaged. You see the disambiguation. If he says, get me an account, it's like, which account would you like? Get me a cafe. Which cafe would you like? Cafe au lait, chai latte, what would you like? Huh? The disambiguation part of your brain that you do all the time quite naturally. And you have obviously your analytic part, your affective part, and your process part of the brain. All these 10 parts of the brain mimic the way you think. Take a look inside your head. If you take a look inside my head, you would, after a lot of the vacuum, you will find that there are some elements of this. But if you look inside your head, you'll find exactly this is what's happening in your head. That's what it takes to be a human and provide you human level of service. And Ergun is illustrating that with a conversation there.
Very good. And so to continue and dive deeper into what is happening in our mind, just to show you again, Chetan likes to call this people who love beautiful kidneys. Not for everyone, but people understand what's happening behind the scenes. Your HR employee that you've hired already understands how to work within your enterprise, has the skills for the topics that we're discussing. So you are not trying to build it from the ground up. And we come and have a conversation and say, I want to go on vacation for 10 days from February 14th. And obviously we can speak to Amelia in multiple channels, right? I can speak to her here. I can do the same phone call on a landline. I can actually load her up on my mobile app and we'll show you that. We can actually engage her through Skype or your different channels. So you now think about an omni-channel Amelia, and it's gonna take a little bit longer just because you want to see what's happening in the back end, but she's actually talking to your Workday. She's reached out to your Workday platform in the meantime that you've configured. We're gonna show you the configuration steps later for those that are interested. But when you download your Download Digital Employee, it's yours. It's not a package that we're giving you, it's your employee. That employee knows how to log into your Workday, understand what you mean, validate that you do have enough PTO days for the request that you've made, and go through that process. All of this is happening behind the scenes, out of the box. You're not having to go script, implement, write rules on some chatbot. This is you're trained HR coordinator. Now, of course, I think a number of you in the room know me. That means you know I am a difficult person. I do not follow yet. Stop laughing. I do not follow scripts. I'd rather show variance. And I think the role of conversational AI is to handle human variance. You have Amelia out there for people like Telefonica today, handling 197,000 phone calls in a day. Can she handle those phone calls if people follow scripts only? You would not get a very good result. Humans do not follow scripts. So here, if I said, actually, I need to submit an expense report for parking for $50. Simple thing, but note, I'm in the middle of my HR process. I want to confirm, she asked, do you want to confirm? If you look at the actual process diagram on the right, it only knows to expect yes on the right side or no as the possible answers, as you would expect. A human would have a similar SOP. Your HR coordinator would know, if you ask for expense, do this. It wouldn't say, by the way, if they change topic. Humans introduce the ability to address, what if somebody changes contacts, goes multi-threaded, wants to do something else, and come back. If you try this with any of your chapters, I'm not picking on any one particular, but you try this with Alexa, Google Home, other solutions, you are not going to get that context switching. If you start, play a specific song, and you actually saw that here, she actually completely said, oh, you didn't answer my question. I understand you have completely changed topic, but we're still in the HR domain. Let me now jump into my expense knowledge in Workday. Oh, you talked about parking, I already know enough. Which entity inside of Workday, the expense reporting entity, do you want to submit this under? This is the ability to start following. But by the way, are we done with our PTO request? No. This is statefully threaded. Let me pause it. I remember what you asked for before, but let me solve what you're asking for right now. I'll say yes. And on the right side, she will now go through using the pre-built configuration, using those pre-built plugins, talk to your Workday platform, ask, are you confirmed to submit this request? I'll say yes. My HR coordinator, your HR coordinator, goes ahead, talks to my Workday platform for me, done. She points to my Workday instance for me, tells me I can go verify the expense I submitted. Look at the last thing she says. Would you like to resume submitting a new PTO request? I remember where we were. It does not require scripting. It did not require all these, hacking edge rules. Oh, what am I going to do? No. The AI interprets the base domain knowledge and be able to switch back to your PTO process. Can your artificial intelligence, can your humanized AI apply your SOPs the way your call center agent would by being able to compensate for human variance? And we'll continue. She goes back to where we left off, wants to confirm. Now, I have mentioned I am difficult, so I will continue to be slightly difficult. Instead of answering a question, what if I said, let's make it 5 days? Now think about that. Typed or number 5 would have been the same, but I just preferred it. Now, did I answer the question? The question was, it's for 10 days from February 14th. Is that correct? I said, let's make it 5 days. I kind of answered the question. I said, no, it's not correct. Then I said, edit. It's actually the number of days, and change it from 10 to 5. What is a challenge with probabilistic, machine learning-based systems that are purely probabilistic? They're not context aware. You cannot train and pattern match that sentence because it does not mean the same thing every time. Let's make it 5 days only means change the number of days I am out in this context. So as Chetan talks about, you have to be able to layer on the logic, deterministic part of your brain with the probabilistic part of your brain to be able to truly get human experience. If I say to you, you have 10 days of PTO left and you already took 7 or you take 7 next week, how many do you have left? You don't get the number 3 by pattern matching. and a machine learning algorithm. You do it because you understand the underlying concept, right? The logic. And this is what is required. Do I understand what you meant? And can I then interpret and apply it in this specific circumstance? So while that's straightforward, I want to continue on, if you don't mind, dive very quickly into a topic I think is very important for us, which is learning. And fantastic. Of course, she got it. She changed the 5 PTO days, showed me the days, and she's ready to go. Beautiful. Now, Chetan will actually not let me go on vacation for Valentine's Day, so I'm going to not submit that request. I'll get denied anyway. My wife would have liked that vacation, though. Very good. So
I think Ergun gets, for the last couple of minutes, onto the most important part, which is learning. Because no matter how much Workday, SAP, or PeopleSoft and Oracle you could cover, you are going to have your own bespoke processes, and we need to be able to make sure that the system actually learns from you exactly the same way a human employee would learn from you. And that's the most important part. The keys have to be handed over to you. And that's what you'll show with one quick example. You can go into the Workday and all the other examples subsequently, but just show an example of like how she's able to just quickly learn.
Good.
And learning interactively. Learning not by machine learning, crunching models, learning the way humans learn.
So quick conversation. Yeah. We have our Amelia. She looks lovely as always, knows what I'm doing. I'm gonna ask, where is the benefits office? So she's my HR coordinator still. Now, I've actually gone off script. She doesn't know, right? If you integrate with your Workday, do you know where the benefits office is? Workday doesn't know where your benefits office is, right? Workday may know who your benefits coordinator is, but where is that physically located? You don't know. And if she comes to you, Amelia, I will tell you candidly, if you download your HR Amelia and you ask her this question, she will not know the answer. But can she learn? So now, if we continue the dialogue, we say, I want to talk to an agent. Beautiful. And I am, as always, going to play both sides. This is my acting career. I'm going to be the agent now. I'm going to pick up this conversation. This is now your agent interface. Now, this is a wonderful part about it that comes with your downloadable digital employee. It's not just the experience for the end user. It actually will come for you with an experience for your call center agents. So your call center agents can log in and leverage it to support your customers. You can also leverage plugins to tie it with your call center solution. So if you have Genesis, if you have Cisco Call Manager, if you have another enterprise solution you're using for your call center, tie into it, no problem. You'll escalate out there and still have the learning benefit as long as the conversation goes through Amelia and Amelia can see it. In this case, somebody said, where is the benefits office? I will be happy to show you. I'm just going to copy what I set up there for later. And I come up here. I want to upload an image. Click. And I happen to have a very handy floor map available of where the benefits office is. I was clearly prepared for this question. Now, obviously, specific to my business, to my office, you can see the beautiful curvature of our building there and how you find the benefits office. You'll find it on the map above. Now I'm done. And by the way, if I go to my end user as a customer, I saw all the information presented to me by the agent. Amelia, most importantly, was able to observe as I did this task. So I now say, you know what, Amelia? Learn, observe, see what you got from that conversation. We'll close this, start a new conversation, and ask Amelia, where is the benefits office? That was how quick she learned. She actually observed the dialogue, understood how it was asked, what the agent did, and actually said, got it. Next time somebody in this organization asks me where the benefits office is, here you go.
Now, the paucity of time doesn't allow us to show your Workday, your SAP, exactly the same way. You wanted to be able to find out what benefits package you are enrolled into. If Amelia doesn't know, she will escalate to your HR manager. Your HR manager says, oh, okay, hey, for the SAP, you need to be able to go on benefits in Workday. You need to be able to go to benefits and then view and then take a look at the 401k and the other benefits you are actually enrolled in. Once taught, forever learned. And that's exactly how humans learn. Machine learning has to be complemented by inductive and deductive learning techniques to bring you the power of human learning. And that's what you saw here. I think what I want to do is shift from Ergun and introduce to you, don't worry, I'll get back to you again.
Oh, fantastic.
And so you saw an HR coordinator that you could go ahead and download, and literally within a day, after having downloaded, she would come out of the skills with the Workday and with some of the basic SAP and other things. But within a day, for your bespoke environment, she would have learned. Just by observing and having an interaction with the agent, HR manager, she would have learned. So Bill, gone are the days that you had to suffer 6 to 9 months. Now we are going to switch to the second part, which is we're going to show you a knowledge worker. We're going to show you how you can hire your knowledge worker, IT service desk engineer within 10 minutes. Let me introduce to you Blair Sybil, who is going to be our solutions expert, who is going to show you how you could go ahead and hire a knowledge worker.
That is not Blair?
Yeah.
Really?
No, you man.
Unbelievable. Things I learn on the fly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Thanks for double checking.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And actually, one of the things we're doing now is I actually told Amelia that I have a meeting with Blair, and it's showing the ability for multi-channel. Amelia's actually calling.
Ergun Ekici waiting at the reception. What message would you like me to convey to Ergun Ekici?
Tell him I'm standing next to him and to grab a cup of coffee.
Very good. Thank you. So while Amelia does that, perfect. Let me introduce you. Please go ahead.
The human part of this was important. You have hired a full human. How would you talk to your employee? You would talk to your employee by calling him. You saw that. Bilateral. Not only call one way, but also be able to receive calls. You'd be able to FaceTime the employee. Exactly the same way. You'd be able to just say Slack or Skype the employee. Exactly the same way. Omni-channel ways that you communicate with an employee in 103 different languages. You should be able to talk exactly the same way to a true human equivalent digital employee. And that's what we are unveiling today. And so this is we're going into hiring a digital employee for, actually if you hire, we go, now you're looking at IT service desk engineer. And when you look at an IT service desk engineer, Ergun can go down the skills of what would be included.
I know all of you in this room are very special. We're very special too. Your IT service desk is not. And I apologize for that. I am sure you are very special organizationally, but the type of work that you have to do in your IT service desk requires integrating with what? Office 365, with your Active Directory, your core common platforms that you have. What you see here is an employee, as you would hire, if you hire an IT service desk engineer, and Bill has been through this passionate exercise, if you are looking for talent on this, it exists. Now, it can be costly if you're hiring in New York, less costly if you're hiring offshore, so you have to be cost conscious, but these skills exist. Here, what you're seeing is being able to take a pre-packaged, or I guess candidly, a pre-trained employee that has these domains knowledge now contained within and able to say, hey, I want you to come in and be my IT service desk engineer, applied to my enterprise. And can I do that at the click of a button, as opposed to a 6-month project trying to implement you in my environment, trying to build a center of excellence and all these wonderful terms and terminologies we go through in complex projects. Can I simply click and get the job done? So what you're seeing now is an actual Amelia instance being created from the ground up, brand new, just for you with those IT service desk skills. This is how the HR coordinator you saw a second ago came together. In that one, I actually put it together beforehand. This is actually how long it takes you to put something together, which I would suggest is slightly an improvement on traditional deployment times for complex AI. I didn't even count, but I believe it was less than a minute or two. Fantastic.
Your local domain.
Right. So this is now Blair's, in this case, your IT service desk engineer. Please, Blair.
Right. And just like your architect would be, I'm going to now interact with Amelia through configuration, through natural conversation. So I'm going to extend access to my Active Directory, my ServiceNow, my VPN concentrators if I want to as well, to handle those skills and those roles, just like you would give the same level of access to your engineers, right? So all through conversation now, and you can see she's actually already given me a phone number that I can reach her at. We can hook her up from an omni-channel perspective to how you appear digitally within your organization, right? Through email, through Skype, through Slack, whatever channel it may be, right? For adoption of Amelia as a digital worker.
How can you hire an employee if you can call them? You have to be able to pick up the phone and call the employee.
Right. So at this point, I'm going to hook her up to my Active Directory environment.
So, as Blair does that, so a couple of things to highlight. We are not talking about building an IT service desk for Google Home, and then another one for Alexa for phone. This is your IT service desk engineer, a knowledge worker, and it's accessible through all the different channels. And it's omni-channel. You can start a conversation in one layer and move to the next. You can start a conversation on the phone and move to your Skype for Business, for example. The exciting things that Blair are doing, which is obviously beyond comparison, is actually entering the information how to connect to our Active Directory. This
is obviously what ties into the fact that you will have to authorize the person that you've hired to be able to operate on the assets that you want them to operate on. The exact same way that you would authorize an Active Directory specialist or a Workday specialist or an SAP specialist with the credentials.
That's right.
To be able to operate.
If you hired somebody to be your IT services engineer and gave them no access to your IT infrastructure, what would you get? Very little, I believe is the correct answer.
Yeah.
Here, what we're doing is actually going through that process. And as he's going through that, you actually see on the right side, Amelia's view of this is just the account management abilities in IT services. So she's setting up Active Directory. You want to help your Exchange manager exchange mailboxes. Then you have Outlook skills. You have the other skills as well. And as we wrap these up, then we will show at the end of it how we'll actually perform these actions. So the core skills that you have today, and this is changing your starting skills. You have IT service desk, your knowledge worker, deep domain knowledge. And then you have HR, and we'll show you the last one in a minute, which is going to be your healthcare worker. Very good. I think you're in your last couple of steps. Perfect. So if you want to switch to, you have one of these set up, so we can quickly show that, yes?
Yeah,
This is
absolutely.
the account management setup.
Mhm.
Perfect. So now we're going to show you the end result. So we have one of these nicely set up, ready to go. And from there, now you can have this conversation with her. Let's ask her to, perfect. Show me my open ServiceNow tickets. Very good.
And
Now,
of course, it's incident service requests, whatever module within it.
I'd like to note that she understands, even though Blair does not know how to type ServiceNow.
Yeah.
So that's a layer of cognitive intelligence we had to put just for Blair. But here you've actually seen it live working. So he set up ServiceNow,
Right.
and immediately go in, be able to integrate, see my tickets, escalate a ticket, maybe help me unlock my account, or do common Active Directory tasks. Key point here. If you've been through these type of deployments, typically the most challenging part is the IT exercise. How do I actually enable my technology, my artificial intelligence, my employee to go in and do something in my organization? How do I connect to my AD? How do I, Here, Amelia comes pre-built with those integrations with ServiceNow, with your AD, with your Office 365, and now can take them on through dialogue.
And I think what you can expect right off when you download it, you saw that in 10 minutes. At this point, You would have Active Directory account management, Outlook mail management. You will have your common printer management. You will have common network troubleshooting. You will have LAN management, your VLAN management, your VPN management, those common tasks that you would expect of a level 1-2 engineer. You manage that for different organizations. You know that well. So all the things that you would expect a service desk, a good CCNA, CCNP to do from network side. Similarly, a good Unix admin from one, or Windows admin from the system administration side. All those tasks that you want them to do, they will know that once you download that. In 10 minutes, they come out of the box with that. But then your environment is specific. So in that case, you will then be able to go and say, no, I didn't want you to go ahead and reset my Active Directory password. Take Moody's. I want you to reset my Hyperion password, my particular report. Well, what would a human, digital equivalent human does the same exact thing? I'll have to escalate. It goes to an agent. The agent says, oh, for Hyperion, you open this app, you go ahead, you reset this here, and closes that, and that's it. You teach once, forever learned. That's the power of humans. And that's what is going to make you have a really versatile experience, cognitive expert that grows in cognitive intelligence rapidly. I would like to try and switch, what is it, sorry? Oh, yes, healthcare. So I'd like to try and, so we have looked at a generalist HR coordinator. We've looked at a knowledge worker in IT service desk engineer. Now I'd like to introduce to you a specialist, opioid crisis physician's assistant. Allow me to bring to you our global head of human healthcare practices, Dr. Vincent Grasso. Dr. Vincent Grasso, for those of you who may not know, it comes from Yale and Mount Sinai, a practicing physician who actually practices what he preaches. So very actively involved in opioid crisis management. Also, a true, I mean, one of the things that distinguishes IPsoft, we often try to say, if you permit a moment of immodesty, I'd say, is our brain power. And I think that Dr. Grasso truly epitomizes that, being the program manager for NASA, for International Space Station project as well. So let me just quickly have him introduce to you the problem that we are facing and how can cognitive agents truly solve this problem in our country. Dr. Grasso.
Thank you, Chetan, and welcome. I have the great privilege and pleasure of leading the healthcare practice, but I also practice in an interdisciplinary clinic, a multi-specialty clinic in Newark, New Jersey in the inner city. And I've been able to use that experience to fine-tune some of our assumptions as to how the asset that we have, Amelia, and other attributes can bring value to our patients. What we have up on the screen is a beginning of an analyst risk assessment tool for our medical assistants. What you see is an opioid test and a pre-diabetic test, but there are many more: hypertensive, risk assessment tools. You know, there's a whole plethora of tests that we must engage with our patients to gather the correct data. But what we'll walk through first is the opioid test as an introduction of our digital assistant for the medical assistant space. Just some quick statistics. 20% of the population in the United States suffers from chronic pain. So if there's 1,000 people on the webcast, about 200 have chronic pain, which means you could be exposed to an opioid. If you're exposed to an opioid, about 10% of those patients wind up having problems with getting off of them. So it's a massive number. And the Society of Actuaries reported $630 billion at economic cost, forget the human suffering, over the past 3 years. So it's a massive problem. So let's look at the opioid test that we have here. And what you see here already is a bifurcation, because Amelia is multilingual. My patients that we treat in Newark primarily speak Spanish. I speak Spanish most of the time when I'm in there. So you have to be able to be sensitive and deliver this interface in a multilingual environment. So there is a Spanish and English available component to it. Can you select the English, which you did? Are you male or female?
Male.
How old are you? Yeah, 35.
And 35.
Now, think about why this is an important question. What happens if you were 16? If you're 16 and you're going through this environment, you're a minor. If you were a minor and you were exposed to some situations, you'd have to be placed into social services at a different place than if you were an adult. So a lot of this data is really being followed on the back end on decision trees. Now, look at these questions. A family history includes your mother, father, and any brothers and sisters. You'd be surprised if you ask someone about their family history, they may think a third cousin is an applicable response. Yeah, a third cousin had diabetes, but that's not really what we mean by family history. So there's a qualifier that comes first to define what the term means so that the answer is more accurate. If you ask someone, did they ever have a mammogram? The real question that should come first is, do you know what a mammogram is? Because you can answer the question yes or no, and that doesn't mean that you understood what the question really was. That's part of the verbosity of what we have. Now, as Ergun's going through these questions, there's social questions, there's substance abuse questions, there's a personal histories, family histories, and this comes from the CDC's recommendation for these 11 questions. We didn't make these up. There's a national standard for how these questions arrive. And at the end of the day, do you have a personal preference? This is really an important question. If you've been exposed to pre-adolescent sexual abuse, you really need to be plugged in to see some of the social service and mental health people in the organization. What you saw before was Amelia getting access to systems of record. Why this is so empowering is the following. As you're asking people these questions, and they're not in the office, they could be home before the visit or after the visit. If they claim that they've had mental illnesses, depression, anxiety, etc., you would access the scheduling system of record, and you'd be able to offer an appointment while you're doing this process. So that while this is gathering data, in the back end, it's accessing systems of record so that you can in fact engage and perhaps schedule the patient in the same engagement. There's massive efficiencies in that. Do you suffer from depression? So this is a very fortunate patient that they had a score of 5, which places it into the moderate risk category. Remember, in healthcare, when we engage with patients, we think of things as emergent, urgent, or elective. That's what you do in an emergency room. When you assess people from these parameters, there's high risk, moderate risk, and low risk. You need different resources thrown at a high risk patient. So the exam itself is interesting, but it's what you do with the result. That's why it's so important to have access to these systems of record to carry the ball further down the road.
I think the example that you were sharing just yesterday, you were discussing with me one of the hospitals that you had experience with.
Sure. Yeah, so think about the large hospitals in New York City that have millions of patients. If you have 5 million patients in your network and 20% of them have chronic pain and a percentage of them are being prescribed opioids, there's a big number of people that you need to assess from a risk perspective. And unless you have a combination of a digital employee and a human employee, how would you in a month be able to get access to 500,000 people, get data offsite, 24/7, multilingual, omni-channel, and provide that data back to the population health folks, the CMO, the chief nursing? How would you do that unless you worked in this kind of hybrid environment? So that's really the power of this, that it scales, and there's massive efficiencies of scale with this.
Thank you very much, Dr. Krause.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you. And biggest thanks, and sometimes you struggle to find a word that's bigger than thank you to each one of you, who has taken the time in the middle of their days. You truly are the vanguards that will usher in this new era. You may humble yourself to think like, no, I'll just go about. No, but you are living in a digital Darwinistic times, and you are going to make your companies, your careers, and your corporations move up the digital Darwin curve, where the McKinsey estimates that if you are up as a leader in the digital Darwinistic curve, as opposed to being a laggard, you have a 45% margin enhancement as opposed to a 35% margin compression if you happen to be a laggard. With 80% spread between the digital front runner and the digital laggard, I don't have to spell it out to an audience whose knowledge way dwarfs mine, that you almost face existential threat if you are not climbing up this digital Darwinistic curve. And I think you guys are the ones who have taken it upon yourself to be those leaders that are going to start to have real digital employees delivering business outcomes that will be equivalent, and in some cases superior, to the outcomes that you were getting with your human employees. So it's going to be, and in the process, you would actually move your human employees to higher forms of creative expression. And is that not the big calling of artificial intelligence, is to liberate man from all mundane chores so that they can actually focus on higher forms of creative expression that apply more to your business, to get away from the core that becomes more commoditized and moved into the adjacencies? Is that not the whole purpose of artificial intelligence? And there was I spent some time in France, and there was a French scholar that said, the whole purpose of artificial intelligence is man may spend more time at la plage at the beach. And I think that there is the creative expression that comes with the horizons that you can actually push. You can see that already in the customers that we service. The 500 or so such customers that are actually adopting cognitive technologies are actually starting to have newer adjacencies that they are focusing their employees into, in insurance, in claims processing, in banking, in account management, in wealth management. In all of those caters, we have seen that progression in the last 6 or 7 years since Amelia has been live. I truly am humbled to be given this opportunity to talk to you guys. I would like to entertain some questions, and I think we have Alistair who would help us coordinate that better.
Thank you very much, Chetan. I will take my glasses off for this, and then I'll find a good optician later. Perhaps through Amelia, thank you. Yeah, I would take some questions, and also for the live audience here, if you do have a question, please raise your hand. We'll bring the microphone around. Looking at a list of questions, I rather thought we should have another webinar next Wednesday at 11 a.m. to get through them all. This question goes under the heading of a buying signal, I think. When can I access the marketplace and hire my first employee? Where is the pricing table?
So you can see how good we are at marketing. We forgot about the pricing. And we also skipped the part about telling you about the URL that you need to go to. So obviously our proficiency lies in the outcomes and the technology that we are able to deliver. But yes, it's called digitalworkforce.ai. You can go there right now, and you can hire your digital employee 5 minutes after we're done.
Thank you. What industries do you foresee being early adopters for the product or the digital employee?
What we have seen is that, interestingly, we thought that BFSI would be probably the laggard, but we have seen BFSI really leading this charge, because I was told by one of the chief operating officers of IT of one of the largest investment houses here that we are living in very interesting times where the reward curve is going up like this for digital adoption, but the risk curve, which typically goes alongside reward curve, higher risk, higher reward, it's the inverted yield curve. This is actually the parabolic inversion of that. It's the risk of non-adoption is much higher than the risk of mid-tier adoption of digital technology, which is still higher, the risk, than the risk of leading digital adoption. And I've got several of the financial czars here who have actually practiced this in the audience, so I beg your forgiveness. I'm preaching to the choir here. But BFSI is leading the pack. We are finding healthcare, TMT telco, big, huge adoption of Vanguards like Telefonica and Vodafone's are really blazing a trail. BT, these are organizations that are really at the top of the digital Darwinistic curve, and they're transforming the way telco is rendered. And so TMT is another one that is really, and healthcare is starting to come up very strong, and retail is following. And I think Mark is.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chetan. Great presentation. I was just recently at the World Economic Forum. A big discussion for global enterprises today is lifetime learning. Lifetime learning, not only at universities, at schools, but also at enterprises at all levels. How does this new thinking, new paradigm, this digital marketplace, where you download digital labor from the cloud, playing with the lifetime learning, which is now being discussed by governments and enterprises?
Brilliant question. Learning is the centerpiece, Mark, because you saw us give you several examples, because this is not Amelia, this is not IPsoft Amelia, this is your JP Morgan Amelia, this is your Credit Suisse, I mean, your employee, UBS, your employee. This is your particular BNP, prime example, securities trade for PlanetShare, with Total, Orange, their principal platinum customers doing securities trade. It is there, and learning becomes the key part to it, because the yield curve, particularly the time to value, is predicated on that learning. And so we have made it a point so that we can make learning exactly as seamless as it would be in a human environment. All you have to do, what would a human do when they are not able to solve a problem for you? They raise their hand and they say, Mark, tell me who can assist with this. And you, being an expert, Mark, says, oh, by the way, this is where you can find the information about your retirement packages. And this is how you can actually do your portfolio balancing. That's it. Once you've told me, I have learned it now. That's the power of true and revolutionary artificial intelligence. It has to mimic human level of cognition. Not that I will take the utterance and retrain my ML models and recrunch that and load it up and just be able to understand that utterance. I'll be able to understand the entire sequence of what you told me.
Context is critical.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Alistair.
Not at all. I think two short ones here, and I think these will be quite straightforward for you. The first one here is there speech to text capability or only text chat?
If you don't mind, I'll dive
Yeah.
right into it.
Yeah.
The goal is to be human. That means Amelia both has ears and a mouthpiece. It is actually a diversity of speech to text and text to speech capabilities. So today, Amelia, one can be a part of a common voice channel like Google Home, Amazon Alexa, and speak through them with their voice in their ears. Amelia has her own voice, so you can put her on the phone line like we did with Blair. She can speak out. We have a speech to text and text to speech solution that we deliver as part of the Amelia solution out of the box. It's actually part of DDE. You saw the phone number that comes with it. You actually do have the further ability to make it a part of your existing speech to text and text to speech solution if you have one as an enterprise. So if you have a voice to your enterprise, you know, you're all saying there's a certain voice you want on the phone line, you can actually embed Amelia with the existing speech to text and text to speech capabilities as well.
Thank you, Ergun. Another great question is, does the digital employee operate in the cloud or on-prem?
The answer is both, as it needs to be. Now, your downloadable digital employee is on the cloud. So when you go to the website and you click download and we load up, that is hosted by us, provided as a service, accessing your infrastructure, accessing your other cloud assets as part of your cloud portfolio of SaaS solutions. Beyond that, as an enterprise solution for large, complex, regulated industries like financial services, like healthcare, where HIPAA is of concern, we do have the option for it to be fully on-prem as well. If it's on-prem, there are no cloud assets, so it becomes a part of an organization's existing infrastructure.
Thank you, Ergun. I'll take some guidance from the team here. Are we got any more time for one more question, or are we heading towards one more question? Okay, so this one's interesting. Can you elaborate on how to integrate a digital employee with an existing system like SAP HR?
I'll give you two answers and Chetan, if you don't want to add to it. For common platforms, I'm going to talk about the SAP's PeopleSoft Workday, for your CRM systems like Siebel or Salesforce or ServiceNow. They are pre-built connectors. Amelia knows how to speak to those systems already. She's like a user that has already been trained on ServiceNow. She just needs to know how to access them and connect to them. And through dialogue, this is actually what Blair was doing, you can speak to Amelia, she'll ask you the questions she needs, and through the answers you give, she will connect to ServiceNow. There are also the ability to extend and connect to systems that are not pre-built. You're a complex enterprise, you have a homegrown HR system. It happens. None of us are proud of it, but it happens. And if it does, you do have the abilities within that Amelia, whether she's on-prem or cloud, to expand the integration framework and connect her directly to your systems. So you have both options of leveraging pre-existing or extending to your customer.
Thank you, Ergun. And I think just one.
I have one more question, if that's okay. Chetan and Ergun, I know you have
given a lot of thought regarding how the digital labor is going to be hired and brought in. We had those discussions before. It's based on scoring and recommendations. How would this be implemented in the real world in terms of actually getting recommendations for all different types of digital labor? And do you plan to certify this with any international organization like IEEE or others? This is, again, another major discussion, certifying and make sure that you have reliable recommended employees, and obviously in this case, digital labor.
Yeah.
I'll add a quick one for my financial services background on this. Having a digital employee that has a good understanding of domain, be able to certify it is critical. Now, what we have actually learned in practice, and we've deployed it at a number of financial service insurance companies, digital employees introduce less variance than human employees, especially for regulated industries where you're looking for consistency in delivery. What is certification about? Verifying you have a consistent set of skills, that you are committed to delivering an outcome on a consistent basis, providing an audit trail for what you've done. Digital employees are fantastic at this. So we found that for actually high-risk jobs that require certification, that require controls, like an actuary, a cognitive agent is actually less risk for a regulated industry than others. So yes, we are working with those industries in general to think about how you certify, but for the enterprise, it is already a solution that it can adopt with less risk. For example, in terms of protecting HIPAA patient data, you have less risk with a cognitive agent than you do with a human.
There are, Mark, specifically 162 of these enterprises that are already queued up waiting for this, for us to open this up. So we know of the interest in the marketplace to hire digital employees and having our track record of delivering quality solutions in AI. But let me just once, a final thought with your indulgence is that we have no delusions of grandeur. We can give you deterministic AI solutions that can provide business outcomes in line with your expectations, guaranteed. But you have to be the vanguards that transform your organizations. You have to be the professors from which Amelia learns for your organizations, your IT service desk, your HR managers, your generalists. You have to be the people who are leading this main revolution. We can provide you the AI that can deliver deterministic human equivalent level of experience and promoter scores. But I am just humbled to be standing with minds that are going to shape the tomorrow of the industry in the next 12 months. Thank you very much for this opportunity to be addressing you today. I hope you found this to be useful, and I look forward to seeing you on the digital marketplace. Thank you.
In debate.